Worry is not just a passing thought or a natural emotion. It is a habit, a deeply ingrained mental loop that quietly steals your energy, focus, and ability to move forward. It often disguises itself as responsibility, as if the more you worry, the more you care. But in truth, worry is resistance. It is a subconscious declaration that you do not trust the process of life. Every time you engage in worry, you pull yourself away from the present moment and enter into a world of imagined chaos, imagined failures, and imagined consequences. This resistance builds a wall between you and the flow of life. You were not born worried. As children, we lived in the present. We didn't question what tomorrow would bring, nor did we drag yesterday with us. Somewhere along the line, innocence and trust were replaced by doubt, fear, and mental noise. This noise became a comfort zone, a mental prison made of what-ifs and should-haves. But here's the truth. The life you want to live, the progress you want to make, and the peace you want to feel cannot exist inside that prison. You have to be willing to step out of it. Many people think that worrying helps them stay prepared. They confuse vigilance with anxiety. Preparation and worry are not the same. Preparation is rooted in awareness and action. Worry is rooted in fear and paralysis. It doesn't move you forward. It holds you in place, spinning stories that feel urgent but serve no purpose. If you pay close attention, you'll notice that most of what you worry about never actually happens. Yet, we sacrifice our present for a future that may never arrive. When you stop worrying, you don't lose control. You gain clarity. That clarity is what leads to intelligent decisions, intuitive insights, and peaceful strength. Worry clouds the mind, but presence clears it. You cannot be powerful and panicked at the same time. You must choose running through the park. There's something profound that happens when you start observing your thoughts instead of becoming your thoughts. When you recognize that the voice in your head is not always telling the truth, you begin to reclaim your mental space. And in that space, wisdom can emerge. Solutions start to appear, not because you forced them, but because you created room for them. Just like muddy water becomes clear when left still, your mind too becomes clear when you stop agitating it with worry. Life starts working not when you figure everything out, but when you trust enough to take the next step. Worry tries to control the outcome of every step before you even take the first one. But trust just takes the step. And that's when the path begins to form under your feet. Letting go of worry doesn't mean you become careless or passive. It means you've chosen to direct your energy into things you can influence rather than waste it on things you cannot. It means understanding that life is not a puzzle to solve, but a rhythm to align with. When you stop resisting the moment, cooperating with it. And in that cooperation, life begins to move effortlessly, intelligently, and often miraculously. So the next time you feel that familiar rise of tension, pause. Don't run with it. Don't fuel it. Just breathe. Remind yourself that worry is not the answer. You are not helping yourself by drowning in worst case scenarios. You are not being responsible by rehearsing fear. You are simply stepping out of alignment with the very flow that can carry you forward. Worrying, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Because on the other side of worry is clarity. On the other side of tension is peace. And on the other side of fear is freedom. Worry clouds your mind like fog over a road. You can't see clearly, you slow down, and eventually you stop moving altogether. This is the nature of mental resistance. When we worry, we're not solving problems, we're repeating them in our heads, amplifying their weight and giving them more power than they deserve. Clarity, on the other hand, comes not from excessive thinking, but from presence, being rooted in the now. And worry cannot survive in the now. It only lives in imagined futures or replayed pasts. Imagine trying to solve a puzzle with pieces scattered all over the floor in a dark room. That's what it's like to try to make decisions while worrying. Your thoughts are scattered, your energy is drained, and your vision is limited. The room, your mind, needs light. That light is clarity, and clarity comes when you calm the storm inside, running through the park. Marty, when you try to fight it. Many people are stuck in cycles of overthinking because they believe that worrying is somehow useful. They think, if I keep thinking about it, maybe I'll figure it out. But what they often don't realize is that most of their thoughts are recycled. They're not thinking new solutions, they're looping old fears. And each time that loop runs, the fog thickens. Worry shuts down your higher reasoning. When the mind is in a constant state of stress, it operates from survival mode, not creative intelligence. You react instead of respond. You fixate on the problem instead of exploring solutions. And slowly you start believing that you're trapped, start running through the park, when in fact you're only mentally cornered. This is why letting go of worry is one of the most productive things you can do. It opens the door for clarity. It gives your mind space to breathe and your awareness room to expand. It's like pausing the noise in a crowded room. You begin to hear the quiet truth beneath the chaos. When you find clarity, you shift from fear-based thinking to purpose-driven action. You begin asking different questions. What can I do right now? Instead of, what if everything goes wrong? You stop searching for guarantees and start embracing possibilities. And that single shift can change everything because clarity restores your personal power. It allows you to move forward. Even if the path isn't fully visible yet, letting go of worry is not the same as avoiding reality. It's not denial. It's seeing reality for what it is without magnification, distortion, or panic. It's the ability to look at a challenge and say, this is hard, but I can handle it, instead of, this is hard, I don't know what to do. That subtle shift in mindset, from confusion to confidence, comes from clarity, not from overthinking. Truth is, most breakthroughs don't come in moments of mental tension. They come when we step back, relax, and allow insight to rise. Creativity, intuition, and wisdom are not born in mental struggle, they emerge in mental stillness. That's why some of your best ideas have likely come while walking, showering, or simply being in a calm state. When the mind settles, the answer surfaces. So the next time you feel overwhelmed with worry, remind yourself clarity is not something you find by thinking harder. It's something you create by thinking less and observing more. Return to the present moment. Breathe. Ground yourself. Allow your thoughts to slow down so that your awareness can catch up. When clarity comes, life begins to work. Not because everything outside has changed, but because your perception has. And with a clear mind, you're no longer a victim of circumstance. You become a conscious participant in your own growth. That's where power lives. Not in worry, in awareness. Not in stress, but in stillness. Worry has one main feature. It removes you from the present moment, pulls your attention either toward a past you cannot change or a future that has not yet happened. And in doing so, it steals the only real power you having, the power of a now. This is something most people overlook. They live in imagined timelines, regretting old choices, fearing what comes next. And meanwhile, they miss the life unfolding right in front of them. But here's a liberating truth: everything you want to transform, fix, build, or improve in life can only be done here in the present. The mind has a clever way of making you believe that salvation lies somewhere else. That if you just think a little harder, plan a little longer, stress a little more, somehow things will improve. This habit only keeps you stuck in mental loops that lead nowhere. Worry is not action. Worry is the delay of action, running the park, and because it keeps you looking forward or backward, you never fully engage with what's available to you right now. Present moment is where all of life's momentum begins. It's where ideas come to life. It's where healing happens. It's where connection is found, the park. Yet most people are so consumed with what if scenarios that they miss the only place where actual change can occur. And that's the great irony of worry. It makes you feel like you're being responsible, while in truth, it distracts you from being effective. It's important to realize that peace and power are both born from presence. When you anchor your awareness in the now, you reclaim your inner stability. You stop swinging between hope and fear. You stop obsessing over things you cannot control. You begin to see clearly, think, and act intentionally. Even if the situation around you is chaotic, your internal state becomes calm. And from that calm, you are better equipped to respond wisely. This doesn't mean you ignore the future. It means you stop living in it. Planning and preparing are useful. But endlessly worrying about what might happen tomorrow takes you away from what can be handled today. And when you stop showing up for today, rue the park, you weaken the foundation of tomorrow. It's not the imagined disaster that blocks your progress. It's your absence from the present. Through the park. So how do you come back to the now? You begin by becoming aware of when you've left it. Notice when your thoughts race into the future. Observe when your mind replays past events. You don't have to fight those thoughts. Just witness them and gently return to what's in front of you. Breathe deeply. Feel the ground beneath your feet. Focus on the task at hand, to the person in front of you. One moment at a time, you bring yourself back to reality. And that's where your strength returns. Living in the present is not passive. It is the most powerful thing you can do. Running through the park, it's the difference between reacting blindly and responding consciously. It's the difference between being consumed by fear and being rooted in peace. The moment you stop letting your mind hijack your attention with worry, you gain access to real insight, real creativity, and real progress. Run through the park. You are not powerless. You are simply distracted. And the antidote to distraction is presence. The more you practice being fully here, the more life starts to respond to you. Problems begin to feel manageable. Steps become visible. Opportunities arise where you thought none existed. Worry pushes life away. Presence invites it in. And the more you live in the now, the more life begins to work. Not perfectly, but powerfully. Because in the present, you're not resisting life. You're working with it. When your mind becomes calm, something remarkable begins to happen. Life begins to align. Opportunities start appearing. Relationships improve. Running through the park, and solutions that once distant begin to reveal themselves. It's not magic. It's a shift in energy. When you move from inner chaos to inner calm, the outer world mirrors that balance. Most people spend their lives trying to force life into place, believing that stress and urgency will accelerate progress. But the truth is, the calmness is not the absence of action, it's the powerful foundation for it. Think of a river that flows gently but steadily. It doesn't fight its path. It doesn't rage or crash to reach its destination. Yet over time it carves valleys, nourishes lands, running, and sustains life. That's the nature of calm energy. It's steady, clear, and deeply effective. When your inner world resembles that river, grounded, intentional, and focused, life starts to work with you, not against you. Worry, on the other hand, throws you into a state of resistance. You try to control outcomes, predict every variable, and plan for every possibility. This creates tension, not just in your mind, but in your body, your energy, and even in your surroundings. People can feel when someone is tense, just as they can feel when someone is calm and centered. And the universe seems to respond accordingly. When you're calm, You think better through the park. Your choices are not impulsive but intentional. You speak with clarity instead of reactivity. You listen more, absorb more, and understand things deeper. Calmness is not a luxury. It's a necessity for anyone who wants to live purposefully. And ironically, the moment you stop forcing things and start allowing space for life to unfold, that's when progress becomes faster and more meaningful. Many people mistake calmness for passivity. They think if they're not stressed, they must not be trying hard enough. That belief comes from a misunderstanding of power. True power doesn't come from tension. It comes from alignment. When your thoughts, emotions, and actions are in sync, you become a force that moves through life with grace and strength. Inner calm also allows you to see beyond the noise. In a noisy world, everyone is reacting, scrolling, comparing, overthinking, doubting. But the one who stays grounded becomes like a lighthouse in a storm, unshaken, clear, and dependable. This stillness gives you an edge. Running through the park, you stop being pulled by distractions and instead you become someone who moves with quiet purpose. Another powerful benefit of calmness is resilience. Life will not always go according to plan. But when you have cultivated inner calm, setbacks don't shake you the same way. You meet obstacles with a steady heart. You adjust with wisdom instead of panic. And because of that, running life becomes less about surviving the storm and more about learning how to dance in the rain. Running through the park, you don't have to wait for life to slow down in order to be calm. You just need to slow down internally. Begin each day with intention. This stillness, even if only for a few minutes. Create space between stimulus and response. Listen before speaking. Breathe before acting. These small pauses become anchors, and over time, they build a powerful state of inner peace. Calmness is not just for meditations and retreats. It belongs in your everyday life. Your conversations, your goals, your work at the park, and your dreams. When the mind is still, the path becomes clear. And from that place of clarity, you move not with fear, but with faith. Life doesn't need you to panic. It needs you to be present. Be calm. That's when things begin to move. That's when life starts working. Worry is often rooted in the need for control. The mind wants certainty, and when it can't find it, it creates imagined outcomes, through the park, most of which are negative. This is where worry is born, from the illusion that if you could just control every detail, nothing would go wrong. Life doesn't respond to control, it responds to presence, trust, and alignment. The truth is, no matter how tightly you try to hold the reins, life will always be bigger than your plans. The more you try to force outcomes, the more resistance you create within yourself. Control feels safe. It gives the illusion of order. But when you live from a place of control, you're constantly anticipating problems, adjusting strategies, and fearing mistakes. This keeps you in a cycle of tension. Your nervous system remains activated, your decisions are fear-based, and your focus is scattered. What you really need isn't more control. It's more clarity. And clarity comes from trust. Trust does not mean doing nothing. It means you do what you can with full presence, the park, and then you let go of what you cannot influence. It's the wisdom of knowing the difference between effort and force is grounded and steady. Force is desperate and frantic. When you operate from trust, your actions are guided by calm purpose. You move forward without needing to manipulate outcomes. And because your mind isn't fixated on worry, you begin to notice new opportunities, solutions, and insights. Think about a time when things just seemed to fall into place. You didn't panic your way to success. You didn't overthink every detail. Things aligned because you were in sync with the moment. That is the power of trust. It creates internal space, and in that space life has room to move. Letting go of control isn't weakness. It's maturity. It takes strength to surrender the illusion of certainty and step into the unknown with confidence. Control is rigid, but trust is flexible. And life always flows better when you're flexible. When unexpected changes come, those who cling to control suffer most. Running the park, but those who trust adapt, adjust, and often discover paths they never would have seen before. The park. Worry tries to convince you that by obsessing over something, you're being responsible. Worry rarely leads to effective action. It leads to paralysis or impulsive choices. Trust, on the other hand, the park, creates a sense of grounded responsiveness. You listen to your intuition more clearly. You act without hesitation. Running through the park, you stop waiting for everything to be perfect and start making progress where you are. It's important to understand that life is not a problem to be solved, but a process to be experienced. When you release the need to control every twist and turn, you begin to enjoy the journey more. You stop measuring your worth by outcomes. You start valuing your ability to stay centered, peaceful, and purposeful regardless of what happens around you. To practice trust, begin by noticing where in your life you are trying to force things. Ask yourself, am I acting from fear or from alignment? Then pause, breathe. Choose actions that feel connected, not panicked. Say yes only to what aligns with your peace. Say no to what disturbs your clarity. The more you trust, the more life begins to reflect that trust. People respond to your calm. Opportunities come to meet your energy. You start to realize that control was never the goal. Connection was, and in that connection, everything begins to shift. The weight lifts, the path clears, and slowly but surely, life begins to work. Not because you controlled it all, because you learned to trust enough to let unfold. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It does not mean that you stop caring, stop trying, stop planning. Letting go means choosing peace over panic, clarity over confusion, and trust over tension. Running through the park. It's about releasing the mental grip you have on everything you believe must go a certain way in through the park. It's an internal shift from struggling to surrendering, not out of weakness, but from a deep understanding that life cannot be forced into your timeline. It must be allowed to unfold step by step. So many people are taught that the only way to succeed is to struggle, that if they're not worried, they're not working hard enough. Mindset creates exhaustion, not excellence. There is a vast difference between persistence and panic. When you persist from a calm, focused state, your energy is clean and powerful. But when you persist from a worried, restless state running through the park, your actions become scattered and ineffective. Letting go helps you return to that centered place where your best effort can emerge. Letting go doesn't mean detachment from life. It means the deeper connection with what's real, what's actually happening right now. When you let go of the future you keep rehearsing in your mind, you free up mental space to deal with the present intelligently. When you release your grip on the outcome, you become more aware of the process. And ironically, that awareness is what helps you perform better, think clearer, and make wiser choices. In fact, letting go often leads to greater success, not because you stopped caring, because you stopped interfering. Life flows better when it's not being micromanaged. You take action from a place of trust, not fear. Running through the park, you start moving with the current rather than against it. And that shift brings unexpected openings. Things you thought had to be forced suddenly start to align naturally. People respond to your calm. Circumstances begin to bend in your favor, running through the park. Not because you forced them to, but because you finally created space for them to move. This doesn't mean you sit back and do nothing. It means that your action is guided by clarity instead of desperation. You still plan, prepare, and work, but you no longer suffer when things don't happen exactly on schedule. You understand that life has its own rhythm, And sometimes running through the delays are actually preparing you for something greater than what you originally imagined. Letting go allows you to stay open to possibilities rather than clinging to a single path. One of the most powerful lessons in life is this: through the park, peace is not the reward at the end of the journey. Peace is the foundation. And when you build from peace, everything you create has strength, sustainability, and alignment. But if your foundation is stress, even your success will feel fragile. You'll constantly fear losing what you worked so hard to control. Letting go removes that fear. It returns you to a state of trust, running through the park, where effort feels lighter and progress becomes more joyful. You don't need to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. You don't need to predict every outcome. You simply need to show up fully, act with intention, and let life do the rest. That's not laziness. Wisdom, that's maturity. And that's the energy that allows life to start working. Not because you finally figured it all out, but because you finally let go of the need to. Letting go is not giving up. It's giving in to the flow of life, to the intelligence of timing, and to the quiet strength that comes from within. And in that space, life starts responding to you, not with resistance, but with grace. Is a dance between effort and surrender. It requires you to show up, stay awake, and do your part. But it also requires you to step back, release attachment, and allow space for things to unfold. This is one of the most misunderstood truths. Life works best not when you force it, but when you learn to work with it. Many people push endlessly, trying to control every outcome, demanding progress according to their timelines. But in doing so, they block the very flow that would bring them ease, clarity, and breakthroughs through the park. When you work with life, you stop resisting what is. You begin to listen to the moment rather than fight against it. Resistance feels like pressure. It tightens your mind, stiffens your body, and closes your heart. Alignment feels different. It's focused, but relaxed. It's engaged, but not obsessive. It's active, but deeply trusting, running through the park. That's the state where life begins to support your efforts in ways that control and stress never could. Everything in nature operates on flow. Rivers don't run in straight lines. Trees don't grow overnight. Seeds don't sprout by force, and yet all of nature progresses, evolves, and expands beautifully because it works with its environment. Humans, too, are a part of this natural rhythm. But when we overthink, overplan, and overanalyze, we disconnect from that rhythm. We become fixated on outcomes instead of intentions. We ignore signs, override intuition, and exhaust ourselves trying to make something happen before it's time. To work with life means to become more present and more responsive. It means listening deeply, not just to your thoughts, but to your feelings, your environment, your inner nudges. Sometimes progress doesn't come from trying harder. It comes from pausing, reassessing, and waiting for the right moment. Sometimes moving forward means first letting go. And sometimes best thing you can do is to stop trying to control the tide and instead learn to surf it. This doesn't mean becoming passive. In fact, working with life often requires great courage. Courage to slow down when the world is rushing. Courage to walk away from what's not aligned, running through the park. A courage to trust that even if things don't look how you expected, they might still be leading you somewhere better, running through the park. That kind of trust doesn't grow overnight. It grows through experience, through surrender, and through letting go of the illusion that you have to figure everything out on your own. When you align yourself with life, you stop chasing and you start attracting. You stop pushing for answers and begin receiving insights. You notice that people, opportunities, dent the park and ideas start showing up, not randomly, but as a reflection of your new state of being. And in this space, life feels lighter. Running, you no longer feel like you're swimming upstream. Instead, you're carried by a current of quiet strength. This is not to say that life will always be easy. Challenges will come. But when you're aligned, you meet them differently. You respond with clarity rather than panic. You adapt instead of collapse. You learn instead of resist. And because of that, even the difficult moments start to serve your growth rather than sabotage your peace. To work with life is to understand timing, rhythm, and energy. It is to become a student of the present moment. It is to know that when you stop struggling against the current, you actually go further faster and with less pain. The life that begins to unfold in this space is not perfect, but it's purposeful. It's not without effort, but it's without unnecessary strain. You were never meant to fight life. You were meant to flow with it. And when you do, everything begins to shift, not because life suddenly became easy, but because you finally started working in harmony with it. That's when life starts working. That's when everything starts to move